then to make them fall in love with you instead of your competitors, and then most importantly, to excite them to connect with your brand, your services, and your products. So I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of scanning the attendee list first to see if there's anyone here that could benefit from developing for yourselves a holistic online presence. And notice that Grant Thornton is in the audience. So Grant Thornton is a professional financial services firm. And I thought, well, I need your services, so I'd like to find you. So I looked for financial audit services, and I couldn't find you. So I looked for your review engagement services, but I couldn't find you. So I thought I'd get more specific and look for a financial audit firm. Nowhere to be seen. And now I just get very, very specific. I just need a corporate tax filing company in Toronto, and yet still nowhere to be seen. So this was the first opportunity, it's just being found. The second was Miller Thompson. So Miller Thompson is a very large law firm of very good reputation, and kudos to them, they've just done a very good job on rebranding. Beautiful new website, very easy to navigate, to find a lawyer to view their services. I was very impressed with the site until I was in a lunch meeting and I checked them out on my iPhone, and it wasn't quite as beautiful. And then the third was, I noticed in the list Niagara Street Consulting, a small HR consulting firm in Toronto, easy to find, well-optimized presence, clearly a nice website, but when I landed on it, what didn't jump out to me was, why am I here? I mean, I know because I was looking for the company that they're an HR consulting firm, but it wasn't immediately obvious. In fact, it wasn't until I looked down in the bottom right-hand corner that I found that you do human resources consulting, and then furthermore, I wasn't quite sure what you wanted me to do next. Was I to connect with you? What was I supposed to do? So all three of these companies can benefit very strongly from looking at their overall strategy, which is what we're going to get into. So what's in this presentation for you? Well, those 4 points were supposed to come in one at a time, but they didn't. So number one, what are the possible avenues of digital marketing? As we know, online is changing so quickly, it's very difficult to keep up. So what are the most critical avenues to be participating in? But then there's two dangers. So danger number one is, what is the danger of having all of your eggs in one digital basket? Which is a strategy we see fairly commonly. And the second is, what is the danger of having sort of a bolt-on strategy? Which I will also explain. But most importantly, and the reason really why you're all here, what to get out of this, is the ultimate solution. A unified strategy, how to build it, how to execute it. So before we get into it, I want to overwhelm you with some statistics. And the growth of the internet. I mean, in Canada, we're 72, almost 73% of the population uses the internet, not surprisingly. But according to a recent survey, 57% of internet users search the web every single day. So I thought I'd ask at this point, if you don't mind, how many people here still use Yellow Pages? Like the big book. I don't mean Yellow Pages on it, the big book. I think I stopped about 8 years ago, but I tend to do that a little sooner than most. So no one uses the Yellow Pages, good. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, you don't need to wait to the end to ask questions. If you want to just put up your hand and ask them, we'll answer them as we go. And if anyone else wants to answer questions for me too, that's okay. Another interesting statistic here, I included this, is who's using the internet. So commonly, we tend to think of our audience, isn't online. Our audience isn't using social media because our audience tends to be, 40 to 50-year-olds. Well, between 35 to 54, you've got 58 to 72% of people are using the internet and are using social media, as we'll see. So I guess the purpose of this graph here is that everyone uses the internet, almost everyone. And then this interesting little piece over here, I wanted to find out how many people are using smartphones, iPhones, Blackberries with browsers, Androids, and it's substantial. We're now at about 48%, which is almost 1 out of every 2 Rogers customers has a smartphone. So what I showed earlier about Miller Thompson's mobile interface or lack thereof, I mean, that's potentially prohibiting 1 out of every 2 people from seeing the site. So those are just some, go ahead.
Quick question. So that graph of the ages and leaves,
Yes.
would you expect over, let's say, the next 20, 50 years, that graph would change because as these people get older, who grew up with internet, 90 to 100% of people would be using it at the age of 60 or 70?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, these people will shift, 18 to 24, I'm sure that'll hit 100%. And then people like my 2-year-old son will be in this graph because he already knows how to use my iPhone. So yes, that will definitely shift, definitely. So the internet's not going away is the whole purpose of this overwhelming slide. And if you notice sort of the subtle backdrop of icons, this again was to really overwhelm you with the potential of all the platforms. And this is just a small fraction of how many platforms there are. If you want to use it, you probably recognize a number of those icons. So, with all the potential out there, this is the question that most of us as marketing professionals face. Where do we allocate our budget? With so many things we could be doing, what do we do? And I was quite pleased when I found this statistic because it shows a major shift. This was a survey of marketing professionals across industry, October 2010. Where are they putting who's putting what budgets where? And what it shows is that more people now are putting budget into inbound marketing, social media, web, and search. So shifting away from outbound. I mean, that's been one of our biggest struggles for years is evangelizing why companies should be putting budget into online. And so now it's very validating to see that they are. What would be nice though, and really my objective here is to not see them kind of siloed and broken up like this. Really, obviously to accomplish that, you need to define your strategy to execute on all of them in tandem. Any questions on this slide? It's pretty self-explanatory here. So this is the first danger, what we call the all eggs in one basket strategy. So what happens here, because we are overwhelmed and we don't know a lot about online, we tend to focus, and it makes sense, where there is the highest return on investment. Usually that is search engine optimization. I mean, you get ranked, you're going to get hundreds, thousands, millions of unpaid visitors to your site that are they have strong intent. They know what they're looking for. They're looking for your services. They're going to convert. They're going to interact with you. So let's focus on search engine optimization. Let's get in the search engine. But what ends up happening is when you focus all in that one basket, you neglect the other opportunities of digital marketing. For example, I put the acronym PPC, which stands for paid search. I'll show it later in a slide, but there's a difference between organic search and paid search. Both are ranking, quote unquote, in Google. Both are very viable opportunities to drive traffic to the site, but one may be neglected. Something very advanced, which is most often neglected, we call conversion optimization. And for me personally, that's the most exciting opportunity for any company that does lead generation or sales on their website, and I'll explain in a little more detail what that is later. The impact on your brand is quite often ignored because we don't yet relate to online transactional visitors to site as impacting brand. And you're right, maybe it doesn't, but your social media engagement with your audience really does. Your use of video, viral video even, and mobile apps and mobile interface has a severe impact on how people will see your brand. And neglecting that, I mean, it's okay, SEO has the highest ROI, but it's the strongest brands that get the most traffic anyways. So it's never makes sense to sacrifice others at the cost of one. So for example, if you had, say, a large law firm, and I'm not going to pick on you all day, Alistair, but just a large law firm, and they want to be known as